Hello and welcome to episode 253 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan, as always joined by Evan Silva, and we are coming off of a very, very solid week. Exciting times coming out of week 3 with a lot of confidence. Evan, back in the mix. How's it going?
It's going well, yeah. Coming off a big kicker week, a big Josh Allen week, and a very poor Justin Fields week.
Oh, dear God. We're going to get to Justin Fields here in a second. On today's show, and each Tuesday this season, Evan and I are going to go team by team, highlighting the most important things we saw from a fantasy perspective and key takeaways. Before we get into it, 2 things. First, if you have not subscribed to our in-season package yet, you are missing 95% of the content we put out each week. We do have weekly and monthly options available on the site now. If you just want to check it out, head to the subscribe page. Second, this show is brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks.com. The prop streets are overflowing with opportunity right now. That includes PrizePicks if you're in New York or California or Texas or a bunch of other states without a legal sportsbook. PrizePicks is legal and regulated. We're posting a table each week to compare our projections to the PrizePicks prop lines to give you a sense of where we stand on their props. If you want to give them a try this week, they are offering 100% instant deposit bonus. You don't have to play through. Instant deposit bonus up to $100. Use promo code ETR to get the best deal, or use the link in the show notes. Again, promo code ETR at prizepicks.com for the instant deposit bonus and the best deal. All right, Evan, let's get into it here with the NFC, and we'll start with the Arizona Cardinals. And I don't have a lot to say about the Arizona Cardinals in terms of the Rondale Moore tracker. Ran a route on 37% of Kyler's dropbacks in week 1. Went up to 57% in week 2, but disappointingly in week 3, he was back down to 35% as they controlled the second half against the Jaguars. But make no mistake, Christian Kirk is the number 3 wide receiver for the Cardinals. James Conner scores 2 touchdowns. What do you see out of the Cardinals win down in Jacksonville?
Yeah, Rondale Moore has been the 4th receiver for the Cardinals in each of their 3 games. So until there's a changing of the guard there, we're going to have to anticipate high highs and low lows, because he's going to have to do a lot with a little. And so he's going to be inconsistent going forward. I think that we've established a clear distribution in the Cardinals backfield, that Chase Edmonds is going to be the guy between the 20s. He's going to be the guy in the passing game. James Conner is going to be the guy at the goal line and in clock killing situations. And those are their roles. Kyler Murray has been highly consistent, whether it's been, DeAndre Hopkins battling an injury, or AJ Green being very inefficient in week 1. Kyler Murray has been really consistent, over 9 yards per pass attempt in each of the Cardinals' first 3 games. I know he didn't have a big fantasy game this week, but they're going to continue to come in droves, because he's playing at a really, really high level as a passer. He's taken the next step as a passer this season.
All right, let's go to the Atlanta Falcons. And, I'm worried, Evan. We were on the train that Arthur Smith is a sharp dude, that Arthur Smith was going to come here and use his pieces optimally. There is major concern now that Arthur Smith is sliding up on the fake sharp scale. Yeah. Like, not quite the Cliff Kingsbury fake sharp scale, but maybe he's approaching Cliff Kingsbury on the fake sharp scale. The way he's using Kyle Pitts. I mean, Kyle Pitts ran 35 routes on 41 Matt Ryan dropbacks and saw 3 targets. I mean, he's not getting him on linebackers and safeties. He's on cornerbacks. They used the number 5 overall pick on this dude. Matt Ryan could be totally dusted. I mean, I thought the way that it would go bad for Calvin Ridley or Kyle Pitts this year was either Matt Ryan is dusted or Arthur Smith is a fake sharp. And now it looks like it could be both. So I have major, major concerns about Atlanta right now. Is there any hope for Pitts and Ridley?
I think it's a combination of Arthur Smith definitely not, calling plays and designing the offense optimally, but also that they just don't trust their offensive line. Matt Ryan has a 6-yard ADOT. He hasn't attempted a single pass of 20-plus yards downfield in 3 games. The Falcons are 32nd in offensive DVOA. And I think it's a combination of the quarterback and the offensive line, and definitely some subpar, designing by Arthur Smith. But I don't know. Can we expect this to get better? I don't know. At least Calvin Ridley has a nice, strong, I think a 25% target share. He's seen 9, 10, and 11 targets in each of the 3 games. But expectations that he was going to have like a monster season in terms of yardage, making a lot of big plays. We really got to scale that back. It's, he is locked in as the Falcons' number one receiver, and Kyle Pitts is locked in as their number two pass catcher. And it's still like, they're still not getting home. I mean, it's been a really frustrating start.
I mean, they do have a reasonable schedule coming up. Washington defense, which has struggled pretty badly. Jets, Dolphins, Panthers coming up. I mean, there's some opportunities here, but man, it is really tough to have any confidence right now. Absolutely hate to see it on Arthur Smith. It's because of Carolina.
Patterson continues to inch the backfield toward like an almost near even rotation. And I mean, he's made plays in the passing game where he led the team in receiving last week.
Yep.
So he's not going away.
Let's go to Carolina, where one of the biggest stories of the week in fantasy was Christian McCaffrey's hamstring injury. Have the data here on how running backs were used after CMC left that game on Thursday per Dwayne McFarland. So after CMC left, Chuba Hubbard, 73% of the snaps, 100% of the long down and distance, 66% of the short down and distance, 100% of the 2-minute drill snaps, 72% route run per pass play, and 22% target share for Chuba Hubbard. We saw this last year when I was messing around and calling Mike Davis 90% CMC. This scheme is so running back friendly. Now, CMC is not going on injured reserve, so that suggests that maybe he'll only miss 1, 2, 3 weeks, but he's going to definitely miss this week, and I'd suggest probably at least one more after that. And I think Chuba Hubbard is going to play very, very, very well. What's your outlook on Chuba Hubbard? How are you handling adding him on waivers in your leagues?
I mean, he's a big-time waiver priority. No question about that. He's owned in most of my main event leagues. The 20-man roster is there. He's going to be owned. But, anywhere that he isn't, he should easily be the number one waiver wire pickup. It is a really good situation. As you mentioned, it's a very reliable scheme. It's a scheme that almost like works to feed fantasy points to the running back. Sam Darnold is hitting his back foot and getting the ball out. The Panthers are 3-0. They have a really good defense, which is going to keep them in games and neutral scripts, and also give them rushing friendly, favorable scripts that will further benefit Chuba Hubbard. So, really, really good situation for him to be jumping into.
What do you think of Chuba Hubbard coming out? I mean, did you have any take on him coming out of college?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was, he was okay. He's a 4th-round pick. He's, he was solid. I don't think that he was spectacular. He's kind of like just a replacement level player. But that's all you need, as we saw really with Mike Davis last year, as you mentioned. So, he'll be excellent in fantasy. He'll be an RB2 every week with RB1 upside.
2 small notes. I'm a little worried because I do like the Panthers defense a lot. They did lose J.C. Horn to a broken foot, and he could miss the entire year. Small note there. Then another small note, they traded away Dan Arnold this week. They obviously like Tommy Tremble. I mean, no impact for fantasy, I don't think, because they don't throw to the tight end enough, but just wanted to note that. Let's get to one of the other big.
Like the move that they made for C.J. Henderson, though, and he really fell out of favor quickly with Urban Meyer, the new coach, in Jacksonville. But, man, he had some really nice moments in the first half of last year playing like man coverage. So I like that move by Carolina in the wake of losing J.C. Horn.
Let's get to one of the other big stories of the week, and that was the Justin Fields absolute meltdown. Bears absolute meltdown. I mean, my God, it's only been 1.5 games, and it wasn't great spots. I mean, the OLDL mismatch for the Bears against Cleveland was laughable, as Thorne pointed out before the game. But I think we have to be concerned about Justin Fields right now, and it's obvious that like the first chance the Bears get, they're going to go back to Andy Dalton. At this point, that could be as soon as this week, home against Detroit. We will see. I mean, obviously Matt Nagy's going to take a lot of the blame here. How much do you think is blame on him? How much do you think is Justin Fields not being ready? What do you see out of Justin Fields' first NFL start?
It's a lot of blame on Matt Nagy. It's a lot of blame because they are essentially erased his strengths in week 3 against Cleveland, because they did 5-man protections. And they, in order to mitigate the pass rush off the edge from Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett, their plan was to just get the ball out quickly. But when you play that kind of game, which is really an offense that is suited for Andy Dalton, not Justin Fields, you're taking away Justin Fields' ability to throw the ball downfield, which was one of his greatest strengths coming out of college. And and they didn't call any design runs for Justin Fields. So you're taking away his two greatest strengths, vertical passing ability and his dynamic dual threat playmaking ability. And you just put your quarterback in a situation where he's going to fail. And because of the 5-man protection, Myles Garrett just went off against Jason Peters. Jason Peters just cannot block Myles Garrett at this stage of Jason Peters' career. So it was an abysmal game plan, and there was an abysmal result.
Ridiculous. I played Justin Fields. I should be humiliated and ashamed myself. Actual US dollars on Justin Fields. I thought his floor was like legit, like 10 points. I mean, dude had 3 DraftKings points. I mean, just absolutely ridiculous.
You did get the under on his rushing yard prop, though.
We did hit the under easily on his rushing yard props. Yeah, exactly. Dallas Cowboys. One thing I noticed in that game, they went to way more 2 tight end personnel. A lot of Jarwin and a lot of Schultz against the Eagles. And that was probably because they were winning for most of the game, but not much Cedric Wilson, not much Noah Brown. I don't really have a lot to say other than the Chargers were able to slow them down, but I'm starting to think that the Chargers are going to slow down a lot of pass games this year with the way Brandon Staley is designing things. So now they get the Panthers next, do the Cowboys. Really, really interesting game for DFS, which we'll talk about a lot more on Friday. But yeah, I didn't see a lot that's notable or new out of the Cowboys. I mean, at this point, we know what's going to happen with Pollard and Zeke. Pollard is getting full series at a time. Anything for you on the Dallas Eagles game last night?
Yeah, I think that Zeke has looked better every week. There was concern. I think that some of it was valid in week 1 against Tampa Bay, but we can look back in hindsight and be like, it was against Tampa Bay. What running back ever looks good against Tampa Bay? Dak is just playing at an incredibly high level right now. I mean, this guy has gotten better every single season. His football IQ, like the way that he navigates the pocket, even when there's traffic and chaos, taking what the defense gives you. I mean, what did the defense give him in this particular game? It was the tight ends. Mm-hmm. The game plans have been excellent. I mean, their offense is an absolute juggernaut. This is what we wanted to happen last season. We're getting it now.
Let's go to the Detroit Lions, and the DeAndre Swift thing is happening, man. I mean, we talked about it on this pod a couple of weeks ago. DeAndre Swift as a form of the Alvin Kamara role. Dude is on pace for 107 catches. He's also gotten 54% of the running back carries, and that includes 4 carries inside the 10-yard line, which is top 11 in the league. I mean, the Lions are bad. That helps DeAndre Swift. And Jared Goff is not incapable, especially in garbage time, though, and that helps DeAndre Swift also. So, yeah, I mean, DeAndre Swift is looking like one of the better picks that you could have made in full PPR in round 4 or 5. I'm not sure how long it will sustain, and it probably won't sustain in games they're actually playing well. But for now, I mean, DeAndre Swift looks like an awesome, awesome pick. Anything out of the Lions for you in kind of a wild game against the Ravens?
No, I mean, the Lions being a bad team, which, I mean, that's not going to change. That actually is working in the favor of DeAndre Swift. And I think that's something that we can consider to be bankable over the rest of the season.
Yeah, for sure. Packers. Nothing surprising out of the Packers. We know how they're going to play. I actually had a bet on Allen Lazard under 30.5 receiving yards, and he finished that game with 1 target. And the 1 target went for 42 receiving yards. It was so tilting.
Yeah,
but yeah, they played the Steelers.
It was early in the game, so he lost it just early in the game.
Just immediate death right away. It was so painful. I think some people are concerned on Big Bob Tonyan. Only 8 targets through 3 games for Big Bob Tonyan. How would you handle him in season long heading into this game against the Steelers?
Oh, I mean, I'd probably keep rolling him out there. I mean, it's, he's a touchdown dependent guy. And I think the touchdowns will start to pick up, but it's just, it's not easy to find good tight ends in fantasy. I mean, you start messing around with, Mike Gesicki, who's going to be, highly inconsistent, or, I don't know, some guys that, what are you going to do? Grab Tommy Tremble off the waiver wire? I mean, it's not, it's just, he's a low end tight end 1, high end tight end 2, but there's like a million of those guys.
Yeah, for sure. And I would throw, you mentioned Gesicki out there, Conklin into the mix there, who we'll talk about also.
Conklin's a stud.
Okay. Rams, I mean, this Cooper Kupp stuff, I talked about it for a little bit on the solo pod. I mean, Cooper Kupp is like breaking everything right now, leads the NFL in catches and yards, in receiving touchdowns. Obviously, the breakfast narrative has turned true. Cooper Kupp is unstoppable. I thought it was interesting Deshaun Jackson got back into the mix after running just 3 routes in week 2. He ran 17 routes on 41 Stafford dropbacks in week 3. 17 routes isn't really going to be enough for me to be excited about adding him or starting him in season long, but is what it is. I also thought it was notable that Sony Michel played a ton. I mean, 95% of the running back carries, 100% of the running back targets. Really good for Sony Michel with Darrell Henderson out. Darrell Henderson, I think, will end up questionable for this week 4 game with his rib issue. And shout out to you, Evan, for being so staunch on Tyler Higbee, going back to the Tyler Higbee well, because I was a little bit shaky on going back to Tyler Higbee. I ended up going back to him instead of paying up for TJ Hawkinson, and that made a big difference as Higbee was very involved in the offense Sunday. Really good win for the Rams. What'd you see out of their win over the Bucs?
Yeah, I saw some people saying that he had a hamstring injury during the game. He was actually cramping, and he missed a few plays. This was the first game where he didn't play 100% of the snaps. He played 75%, but it was because of the cramping. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, he probably would have played 100% again. I think that Matthew Stafford, and I like Kyler Murray as the early MVP leader through 2 weeks. I think that Matthew Stafford deserves discussion in there. Like if you're looking at MVP bets right now, and I don't know what his odds are because I haven't looked, but I know that they were like 20-1 before the season. He has done exactly what you could have. It's been the absolute peak performance of what you could have expected, because the Rams are able to take their offense to a new level. I mean, you see this vertical passing game. That was never going to happen with Jared Goff under center on these rollouts where the Rams are getting him on bootlegs. Matthew Stafford is just killing teams outside the pocket. His pass protection has been impeccable so far. And then look at this schedule through week 16. I'm not going to read it all, but I mean, they have an incredible schedule the rest of the way. I mean, I don't think it's premature to say that the Rams are absolutely a Super Bowl contender, and Matthew Stafford is an MVP contender because their offense is just, I mean, Sean McVay is feeling it right now.
Yeah. Kyler Murray is plus 750 to be the MVP, but then the second choice is Patrick Mahomes and Matthew Stafford, both at plus 800, 8-1 to be the MVP. So certainly short odds on Matthew Stafford, but he's certainly in the mix. And the schedule, I mean, NFC West schedules are so good this year. Mm-hmm. Vikings. So, I mean, this Alexander Madison thing, and people are going to joke, Alexander Madison, 90% Dalvin, just like so obvious, that like he can do what Dalvin was going to do at a really high level. So many screenplays for Alexander Madison too. They didn't change the game plan at all. Like what they would have done with Dalvin is what they did with Madison. Mentioned Tyler Conklin earlier, Tyler Conklin, the tight end can get lost in this offense from game to games. But Tyler Conklin's a good athlete. A dude can play, man, and you saw it in this game. So it's going to be inconsistent. Like there's going to be 2 and 3 target games for Tyler Conklin because that's just the way this offense goes sometimes. But Tyler Conklin can play and he can have big games like he showed. What you see out of Minnesota's game against the Seahawks?
Justin Jefferson was just relentless. I mean, in terms of his route running, his ability to get just wide open. I mean, he was wide open on a ton of plays along the sideline in the middle of the field in this one. Tyler Conklin was a physical beast after the catch. In week 3, 7 for 70 and a touchdown on 8 targets. He's been solid, man. I mean, I've been trotting him out in main event, and he's been good.
Yeah. Let's go to the New Orleans Saints, and they're 2-1. I get it, but the way they're playing is so fantasy unfriendly. I mean, Jameis has 21, 22, and 20 pass attempts in 3 games. They're playing like 1950s football. He hasn't topped 148 pass yards in any of the 3 games. I mean, when they play well, like they did against the Patriots on Sunday, Kamara's going to get 20, 25 carries. He's going to score touchdowns. I get it. But like, it's really hard for me to have any confidence in really anyone here. And I'm not even really that excited to play Kamara that often. What do you think about the Saints right now?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add to that. I think their defense has played in past years. Their defense under Dennis Allen has had a tendency to start slow and then finish really, really strong in the back half. But their defense has come out playing pretty well early on, and that has allowed them to continue to play low volume offense. They have the fewest pass attempts in the NFL by a margin of 11. So, I mean, it's not just, it's like there's 31 teams and then there's a gap and then there's the Saints at the bottom in terms of their pass volume.
Yeah. Giants had some injuries, man. Sterling Shepard went down with a hamstring injury. Darius Slayton went down with a hamstring injury. They came into the game talking about rotating Kenny Golladay, but he had to play a lot because those guys went down. Good news for the Giants, if there is any, Saquon is obviously back, and Evan Ingram is back. Evan Ingram ran a route on 30 of Dalen Jones' 46 dropbacks. 17% target share for Evan Ingram was solid. I mean, if Shepard and Slayton can't play, they're going to need Evan Ingram, and we're talking about how we're scraping around for tight ends. I certainly have no confidence in Evan Ingram, but at least he's a talented, athletic dude. And if Shep and Slayton can't play, they're going to need Evan Ingram badly. So that would be on my radar for people who need tight end help very badly. 0-3 Giants. I mean, home loss to the Falcons. I mean, it's more big problems for them. Any thoughts on the Giants?
Yeah, Evan Ingram came back. He had a couple drops last week. He was getting booed in his first game back, but yeah, you're right. They're going to need him. I mean, they're going to need him. I mean, I don't know. These hamstring injuries are usually week-to-week situations, and that means like you usually miss 1 week. So, but yeah, Barkley, 87% of the snaps, 7 targets. We're back. He was an excellent buy low after the first 2 weeks. We knew he was going to start slow. Now I think he'll get going.
Philadelphia Eagles laid an absolute egg down in Dallas on Monday Night Football. Jalen Hurts has dropped back 127 times this year, and Goddard and Ertz have pretty much split down the middle. 74 routes for Goddard, 71 for Ertz, kind of canceling each other out. Miles Sanders only 2 carries in this game. I mean, it was an ugly game, and there's no chance to get them going. But I think the point more is that Kenny Gainwell, when they get down big, Kenny Gainwell is in there. And now they play Chiefs, Panthers, Bucks, Raiders next. I mean, Eagles' schedule is not easy coming up. What would you say to Miles Sanders owners and anything else on the Eagles?
Yeah, and they lost Isaac Sumalo, who'd been playing really well at left guard. He's done for the year. Brandon Brooks is out, I think, for at least most of the year. They could at least replace him with Landon Dickerson. But now they're without their 2 first-team guards. So it's happening again in Philadelphia with the offensive line injuries. That's something that, entering the season, they could say, hey, we have a badass offensive line. All of a sudden they don't have a badass offensive line anymore. Jalen Hurts has remained, even through ups and downs, really good in fantasy. Even last week, he's been a top 10 fantasy quarterback in each of the 3 weeks so far.
San Francisco 49ers, Brendan Aiyuk was back, baby. I mean, there were people out there saying that, Kyle Shanahan said Sherfield's going to be in there forever. Jimmy G dropped back 48 times on Sunday night. Brandon Aiyuk ran 44 routes. Trent Sherfield ran 2. So, Brandon Aiyuk is back. He did drop a touchdown. It was a tough catch, but I think he should have caught it. They do get the Seahawks next. Seahawks are getting absolutely shredded on the ground right now. We don't know what's going to happen at running back. Eli Mitchell could be back, but Trey Sermon was the guy on Sunday night. What'd you think out of Sermon and anything else on the 49ers heading into the Seahawks game?
Yeah, Trey Sermon had a rough game. He wound up scoring a touchdown. So if you started him, you got a little bit of production there. But he looked very confidence lacking and tentative as a runner. And they used Kyle Juszczyk a ton. That's a show a lack of faith and confidence in Trey Sermon. I think that once Elijah Mitchell gets back, he should probably be the guy. But I also think that at the same time, we should be anticipating like a musical chair situation in the 49ers backfield the rest of the way. That's Kyle Shanahan has run things like that, and they got a bunch of dudes. And I don't know, I would think about stashing Jeff Wilson. I mean, I do think it's a backfield worth chasing because there can be a lot of production in it, but you can't expect reliability. I thought that there was a chance that when they came out for the second half, that they might go to Trey Lance because Garoppolo struggled in the first half. They did not. Garoppolo played really well in the second half. That's the best that I've seen him play in a long time, how he played in the second half. So another week, another Jimmy Garoppolo start.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly not Jimmy G's fault they lost that game. Defense just couldn't stop Aaron Rodgers late Seattle Seahawks. I think Chris Carson was banged up, maybe needed an IV or was sick in this game, but still, I'm worried about his pass game role. I mean, only 2 targets for Chris Carson on Russ Wilson's last 63 attempts. Travis Homer has been in there for a lot of the pass downs, and if you're not going to give Chris Carson 20 carries in a game, and you're not really going to target him in the pass game, it's just tough for Chris Carson right now. Any thoughts on him and any thoughts on the Seahawks?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing that stands out from a team level here with Seattle is that they are not running a lot of plays like we had anticipated, or at least that Shane Waldron had said that they would. The new offensive coordinator, Russell Wilson, has 23, 31, and 32 pass attempts through 3 games, only 32 total rushing yards. They are last in the league in offensive plays run. And that can just contribute to, it does contribute to a lessening in volume for everyone. Russell Wilson has been able to get there still with extreme efficiency. I mean, they are humming, when they do have the ball, but they're not having the ball very much, and their defense isn't getting it back to them. Their defense is terrible.
Tampa Bay Bucks. Gio Bernard hurt his MCL in this game, which I think is notable because Tom Brady checks down to running back so often. And so I have a lot more optimism for Leonard Fournette than I do for Ronald Jones. Leonard Fournette is the one that is ahead on pass downs. He got 3 catches in that game against the Rams. So that's at least an injury to watch. I don't love starting Bucks backs, but if Gio were to be out, I do think Lenny would have the pass game role. We saw Godwin and Mike Evans predictably have good games with Antonio Brown out. What you see out of the Bucks loss to the Rams?
Yeah, not a whole lot to add to that. Antonio Brown should definitely be back in week 4. I saw some people talking about how they saw him get dropped on their season-long teams. He had a slow week 2, and then in week 3, he didn't play. I think he's going to be somewhat inconsistent because he's the clear number 3. He doesn't play when they're running 12 personnel. It's Evans and Godwin in there, so he's not a full-time player. But he's gonna deliver some big weeks going forward.
All right, last team we're going to hit today in the NFC, the Washington football team. And this is disappointing, man. I was really optimistic on Washington, mainly because their defense has been getting shredded. And it's no shame in getting shredded by Josh Allen and this Bills offense. But still, man, they just not been doing it. I'm also disappointed in De'Ami Brown. I thought De'Ami Brown would have a big chance with Curtis Samuel out. That has not materialized. They do get the Falcons this week, Saints, Chiefs, Packers. There's some potential shootouts there. But it's hard to be optimistic about Washington right now as a team. Still like McLaurin, still like Gibson, but it's tough. Any optimism for you on Washington and what's going on with their defense?
Yeah, McLaurin's target share is 31% on passes from Taylor Heineke. So I know he had 4 for 62 scoreless this past week, but still running him out with confidence. Tre'Davious White was all over him in week 3. It's gonna open up a lot against Atlanta. J.D. McKissick, might have jumped the gun on him really having a big role. He's got 1 touch, 9 touches, and 5 touches in each of the first 3 games. I think that we're going to see an Antonio Gibson breakout week against Atlanta.
All right. That is going to do it for this NFC team-by-team run-through. Hope you guys will join us for the AFC team-by-team in the next episode. For producer Luke, for Evan, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.